What if I told you that it takes 2,000 of these to produce just 1 pound of this? Let me introduce you to the main character of this video, coffee. We're tracing the complete path of coffee, starting as the seed of a fruit all the way to a freshly brewed cup of coffee. Coffee passes through dozens of hands before it reaches your cup, starting with farmers scaling mountainsides, to producers experimenting with fermentation, to exporters and importers connecting people along the way, and with coffee roasters unlocking the flavor of each bean. This journey, it spans continents, and it connects people through a shared commitment to quality. By the end of this video, I can guarantee you'll taste coffee differently once you see all the work that goes into it. So let's see what makes coffee so special. First things first, we need coffee trees to grow coffee cherries. And coffee likes to grow in high elevation equatorial climates, basically the side of a mountain. Here, these coffee seedlings need at least 3 years before they can start producing fruit. And every country has a different harvest schedule based on their climate. But all in all, coffee is harvested 1 season a year per country. But hey, we see you, Colombia and Kenya, with your double harvest. Keep up the good work. And in specialty coffee shops, that's a big reason why you might see a lot of Ethiopian coffees in a cafe 1 month and maybe a lot of Guatemalan coffees the next. But it's this seasonality wrinkle that creates one of the largest inherent problems. Coffee harvesting becomes seasonal, and that's a lot of work. So it can make it really difficult to keep your workforce year-round at a farm. And so that creates migratory groups of coffee harvesters who have to travel from place to place and harvest when the time is right. And harvesting for specialty coffee is no small feat. First of all, outside of Brazil, predominantly all coffee is picked by hand. And this may sound obvious too, but not all the coffee cherries become ripe at the same time. So that requires multiple passes on these dangerous mountainsides to ensure only ripe cherries are being harvested. And just to further put the amount of work into perspective when it comes to coffee harvesting, on average, you need about 2,000 of these coffee cherries to produce a singular pound of roasted coffee. And as these rounds of harvesting are going on, the coffee farmer begins to get an estimation of their yield for the season, as well as their cost of production, which allows them to begin creating their menu for coffee exporters, coffee importers, and coffee roasters. And coffee being grown and harvested is just about the only thing all these farms have in common, because many farms do the growing and harvesting of coffee just to sell it in the cherry to a local processing mill for a market rate. Or they could sell their sorted cherry to a coffee producer who specializes in experimental processing methods. So there are really so many ways to process coffee from this point, but we're just gonna walk through the most standard format. Washed coffees being processed at the farm they were harvested. And it's once these coffee cherries are harvested, they are brought to a central processing hub at the farm. Here, the coffee cherries are pre-sorted in order to keep the under and overripe cherries out of the mix. And firsthand experience here, this takes way longer than you think. And it's from there that the coffee goes through a machine called a depulper that rips up all the fruit around the seed. And lots of people ask, well, what do farmers do with all that fruit? Well, most commonly, it's composted for fertilizer for next year's harvest. And sometimes it's also dried into a tea-like drink called cascara. But once the coffee is depulped, it typically is sent straight into tanks to start the washing process. And 3 things get accomplished here: floating, fermenting, and washing. So with floating, that means that the coffee seeds with defects and low density typically float to the surface when submerged with water. So clearing these off is a huge part in creating a clean cup. For fermenting, the coffee usually sits in these tanks for 1 to 3 days, and that creates a small window of fermentation for the leftover fruit mucilage to impart some complexity and balance to the coffee's profile. And then thirdly, of course, the washing. The water washes off the fruit mucilage from the seeds so that they will be ready to be drained and then dried. So the tanks get drained and the coffee is gonna get moved to a drying area. Depending on the farm, the coffee could be dried out on the ground, on roofs, or even raised beds. And raised beds are definitely the best method to ensure an even drying. And coffee drying, it sounds straightforward, but this is another key factor to differentiate commodity grade coffee with specialty coffee. Getting the coffee to a low enough moisture level takes time and it takes energy. We're talking an extra 2 to 3 weeks with many rounds of turning the coffee. And if you've noticed, the coffee here doesn't really look like green coffee at all, more like yellow coffee. And that's because we're not done yet. The dried coffee has a protective layer around it called parchment. So at this point, the coffee is typically purchased from farmers and sent to a dry mill to be stored before being shipped. Dry milling is the unsung hero of the coffee processing story. There are many levels of sorting and grading that can be done here to really elevate the quality of a coffee. So at a dry mill, in short, the coffee is sent through machines that take off the parchment layer. The coffee can also be sent through color graders and size graders to create even more uniformity in a coffee. And sometimes, as an extra step, the coffee gets sorted by hand all over again, just to get out some of those defects. And that is something that is really key to dry milling and honestly sorting coffee in general that we don't touch on a lot outside of origin countries, is the power of defected coffee to ruin a cup. Because it really just takes a handful of defective beans caused by bugs or a fungus to take over a coffee and bring its value and consistency way down. These grading and sorting measures are so vital to specialty coffee. That might be a lot of information for you right now. So if you're a visual learner, we got in this little model to kind of help show coffee's journey visually. So this part is the coffee skin. It's protecting all of it. When the coffee is picked, it goes through that depulper. So it's gonna take off the skin layer and the fruit, which is called the mucilage. So we'll set those aside. And so once coffee goes through the depulper, it's washed, it's cleaned, and then set out to dry, what you end up with is this yellow coffee because the coffee bean is still in its parchment layer. It's at this point that the coffee is going to be sent to a dry mill to get this parchment layer off. So then you have this other layer, which comes off during roasting. This is called the coffee silver skin. And so if you've ever seen coffee roasters, it creates a byproduct called chaff. And so this is a papery layer in coffee that comes off during roasting. And finally, the humble roasted coffee bean that gets ground up and brewed for your drinking pleasure. Back to you, Ethan. Once the coffee is bagged in a protective layer to retain moisture levels and keep pests out, it's ready for the journey to its new home. And so now the coffee is going to get loaded up and transported to a port city to get loaded into a shipping container on a barge. There it's sent to its destination country and stored in a warehouse to be released by coffee roasters at the right time. You're just telling me that roasters buy coffee blindly and never taste it? Well, let's touch on a coffee roaster storyline while coffee is being harvested at origin. Welcome to Valor HQ. Just north of Atlanta, Georgia. It's here that we roast coffee and ship it all over the world. So a country's coffee harvest season is typically a few months long, and it's early on in this process that first fruits are sent ahead of the pack and sent out to coffee exporters, coffee importers, and coffee roasters to begin the search for a business partner. Or if there's already an established relationship, these pre-shipment samples can be sent as a quality control measure before being purchased. These samples are typically about 100 grams, and you can't really roast something that small in something like this. So we use something like this. We're roasting and cupping the sample to assess quality and profile to see if it has a home on our menu. And it's while we're doing this assessment, farmers, exporters, importers, they're doing the same exact thing to maintain alignment on a coffee's quality and profile. It's at this point that we can reserve the coffee and lock in our quantity and price. And once the coffee lands in our roastery, we get to use the data from our sample roast to start building out a roast profile that brings out what we love in the coffee and want to share. So just like dialing in a coffee for brewing, we begin dialing in a coffee for roasting. And if you've ever wondered how to roast coffee, let me hit you with the ultra short version. Basically, we're cooking or roasting the coffee to make it soluble, meaning able to dissolve in water. And roasting happens in 3 main phases. First up, you got the drying phase. That's where coffee is dropped into the roaster and hit with some serious heat to start drawing out all that moisture. And then you'll enter the mired phase, named for the Maillard reaction, where the coffee begins to brown. Sugars start to caramelize and flavors really start to develop. And it's the end of this phase that's marked by the infamous first crack, where expanding steam breaks through the bean, leading to the popcorn sounding popping noise. And finally, we enter the development phase, where we dial in how dark or light the roast should be to bring out the best features of that coffee. And this is where roasters would talk about things like their end temps or development time ratios. And so as the desired end is reached for that coffee, it's dropped into a cooling tray to stop the process. And from there, we do further sorting, where we run all the roasted coffee through a destoner to catch anything you don't want going through your grinder. Once the roasts are complete, we cup them again for tasting notes, and we start the process of getting the coffee on our menu. It's from there our super epic package team loads it up and ships orders to coffee shops, businesses, and people across the world. And once it lands to you, coffee has found its last stop. It's no small feat to brew up a coffee either. So whether that's at a cafe being served to hundreds of guests or a pour over at home, just shared among friends, we hope that you can taste and see all the care that has gone into this precious product along the way.